Hey there everybody, this is Lee with Creative2xmom, and today I'm going to be sharing another video with you about homeschooling. And this is a topic that I have been turning around in my mind. On the one hand, I feel like a lot of people don't share the cons of homeschooling. So today I want to share with you some of the pros, some of the really good stuff, and some of the cons, some of the stuff, the drawbacks to actually homeschooling your kids. So let's talk about the pros. Let's talk about the light stuff and the reason why a lot of us actually get into homeschooling. Number one for me would be the ability to tailor your child's education. I feel like this is a huge benefit because when your kids go to public school and there's 30 children in the classroom, you can't teach to each individual student. It is a challenge. And that's where the parents a lot of times at home are picking up with the homework and with the extra reinforcement, because then you can work one-on-one with your kids. I can work one-on-one with my kids all day long. Yes, there's 3 of them, so it is a challenge, but it's so much more of a tailored educational environment. I can see where their weaknesses are, and I can slow them down in those areas. I can see where their strengths are, and I can push them ahead. The other day, my 2nd grader said to me, he was like, "I don't like subtraction." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's too easy." So what we started doing is I was taking some of the problems from each lesson, and if he was nailing it, we were just moving on. We were able to pick up a quicker pace in his math book, which is something that he couldn't do in the public school system. Conversely, with writing, my kids struggle with writing a lot. I struggle with teaching them how to write. So that's one of those things that we slow down on. We spend a little bit more time on. We let other things slide so that we can focus on writing and writing across the curriculum. That's one of those things that I really try to do, not just writing stories, but writing research reports, writing timelines, and finding different ways to incorporate writing within our education. Along with that, number 2 is the ability to work one-on-one with a student. And this is kind of a tentative balance, of course, because I have more than one kid, but just that I have the time to sit face-to-face with them and see where their struggle actually is. When you have a quick conversation with someone, you can't always get to the root of what the issue is, but I have the time and the space to sit down and really listen and say, okay, where are you actually struggling? Does this portion make sense? Does this portion make sense? And we have that one-on-one, face-to-face contact and that immediate reinforcement of, wait a minute, no, maybe that's not quite right, or yes, you've got it. Like I said, we can move forward a lot quicker in certain things because we have that one-on-one contact. Number 3 is just flexibility. I find that homeschooling is so much more flexible. Even though we work with a traditional classroom school year calendar, we still have a lot of flexibility of being at home. So if we have appointments in the morning or if we have appointments in the afternoon, if my kids were in a public school system, they would just miss that class and have to either make it up in homework or be sitting in a classroom a couple days later and not be completely understanding what's happening. Whereas if we have an appointment, I have the flexibility to say, okay, we're going to switch school time to the afternoon, we're going to move things around. We have the flexibility to focus on their areas of weakness. We have the flexibility to change up our schedule if we have family in town and to say, okay, we have family visiting here, but we have the ability to make this lesson up here. So there's a lot of flexibility to be able to build relationships, to kind of just live life in a lot of ways, is there's not this constantly catching up. If you miss something, you can just kind of switch your schedule to a different area that works better for your family. And number 4 is experiences. We just got back from a field trip this morning and being able to take the kids out. I know that they do field trips in public school system, but we have such a flexibility, again, to really get out in the world and see how things work in the quote-unquote real world, that I find that my kids learn better when they can see it, they can interact with it, and they're not just sitting down at a desk all the time. It really brings to life the things that we learn in a book, the things that we learn on our worksheets, and then to be able to go out in public and have those experiences makes a world of difference. And I feel like this even continues beyond the field trip aspect, continues beyond the quote-unquote experiences into being able to have experiences with their grandparents and being able to go out in the world, travel places, interact with people of different life experience, whether that's older or younger, and with their peers as well. I find that just having that life experience really drives home a lot of what they're learning and really brings out a lot of their character, brings out a lot of their maturity. Alright, so those are the top 4 pros I have. Let's talk about some cons. Let's talk about some of the yuckiness of homeschooling kids. There are things that are tough and we don't always want to talk about them. We like to think that because we've chose this path, we should always be happy about it. It should always be something that we enjoy, but there are some tough aspects to being a homeschooler. So my first con would be the fact that I'm never off the clock. I'm always constantly thinking of their education. I'm always constantly thinking of experiences that I can share with them that will drive home their education. I would think that this would probably be pretty similar to a teacher in the public school system, but I'm always on the clock with my kids. You know, a teacher is going to clock out from her classroom and then be with her kids. I'm always on the clock with my kids. Always thinking about how can I design that lesson better? How can I explain writing better? How can I incorporate going on this field trip but then still having the time to not let math slide? I'm always on the clock. Last night at like 8:30 last night we were doing homework because we just had a lesson that hadn't sunk in well at the beginning of the day, and so we had to put it aside, live our life, and come back to it. I'm just always on the clock as a homeschool mom. Number 2 is the constant change of grade and subject. I was trained, I have a teaching credential in the state of California, so I know how to do lesson plans. I know how to prepare information. But I was thinking about this weekend, I thought, you know, if I just had a traditional public school teaching job, I could zero in pretty closely every year of how I wanted to teach, what sequence of things I was going to teach, my methodology of how I was going to teach certain things. I would have the resources already prepared from the prior year. Yes, things would change a little bit here and there, but after a couple years in the classroom, you kind of have it zeroed in how you want to run your class. In homeschool, that does not happen. That all gets thrown out the window. I'm teaching a different grade every year, and at some point, yes, it repeats, but I feel like I just settle into a grade and it's May and it's time to start prepping for the next grade. My oldest is in 8th grade this year, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm just gonna figure 8th grade out and high school's gonna be around the corner. Or I just figure out how to teach 3rd grade, what sequence of events I want to do, and then I don't teach it for another 3 years because it's another 3 years before my next kid is in 3rd grade, and where is all my material? Where is my sequence of how I'm teaching things? So you constantly are on your feet and learning as you go, which in a way is a great thing because it keeps you learning and it keeps you seeking, but you never get that chance to really catch your breath because things are constantly changing. Number 3 is having that educational weight on your shoulders, and for me, I'm a type A personality, so it weighs pretty heavy on me. I know some people who are great at this. They are able to shake it off. They're like, yes, my kids will learn what they need to learn when they need to learn it. It's not a big deal. Yes, they're struggling with math, but it will kick in the future. For me, I see like the worst scenarios happening. I'm like, oh, you're struggling with science. You're never gonna make it. I don't know if we're gonna graduate high school. It's just that weight of their education is on my shoulders. And if I were to put my kids into public school, I feel like the teacher would carry most of that weight. And then as a parent, I would also carry some of it, but I wouldn't have it all on me. So throughout the day, I'm thinking about the weight of their education, I'm thinking about the weight of their character, I'm thinking about balancing socialization with other kids, plus time at home, plus who do I allow them to socialize with because I want them to have good character. It all sits on you as a parent. There's not that distribution of weight necessarily. Yes, they have other adults, sports coaches and stuff that I value so much. That's one of the reasons why my kids are in sports, is that they have other adults speaking into their life, but at the same time they're with me so much that that weight can get pretty heavy sometimes. And then number 4 con, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine, I don't know about anybody else, but I will get these questions of like, what do you do all day? Do you just sit at home and your kids just read books? And it drives me crazy because in my opinion, being a homeschool mom, I have a full-time job and then some. If you're a teacher, you know that that clock does not stop at the end of the day. You are constantly learning and growing and discovering new things and prepping because you really want what's best for your students. Well, in my mind, I have a full-time job. I do the same thing. I really want what's best for my kids, so I'm constantly prepping and preparing and learning myself. And so I hate that question. What do you do all day? Well, can't you do it? Can't you volunteer for this event? Or can't you prepare this thing? Or can't you just, you could just be the one that prints off bulletins and folds them because you're just at home all day. What do you do all day? I hate that comment. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I feel like it's a huge con and that people just don't understand. People don't understand that your day looks different, but you are a working parent. You are working. And so just that perception for me is a huge con of homeschooling. It drives me crazy. So those are the pros and cons that I wanted to share with you today. Leave me a comment down below. If you are a homeschooler, what are some of your top pros and cons of homeschooling your kiddos? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that subscription button down below. We share a couple times a week recipes, craft ideas, parenting, life with kids, and of course, homeschooling. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.